Hello and welcome back. We are continuing off where we left last time with our Tau stealth battlesuit squad here. We did the base layer on a couple of these, and we managed to get kind of a good bit of progress done. But we're going to be continuing on with that. And first and foremost, we're going to be going in with our Corax White. We've already done a layer of grace here on all of these models, I think, if I remember correctly. Let me take a quick look at this one. Yeah, it looks like it is. It's kind of hard to tell. The primer that I use is like the exact same color as Grace here, so it is a little bit hard to kind of gauge whether or not I actually put it on there. But we are halfway done. We're going to keep plowing along here. And with that Corax White, I think I was kind of on the fence about it before. Corax is kind of a weird color. It's not as pure a white as I would really want. Something like, I don't know, titanium white. uh, in terms of like normal paint, I don't know what kind of a brighter white would be in terms of like Citadel color. But it's kind of like the brightest I could find. So I'm just kind of making it work. And so far, I think it's all right. I was really on the fence about it before, whether or not it would look good, but I think once we kind of get everything finished here and we do another layer or two, it's really going to start coming together. So I am hopeful for that. Now we are going to start out with a little bit of detail work today. Once we get our base layers done, hopefully, if our time frame kind of allows for it. Um, maybe not that much. We probably won't have a lot of time to do as much as I'd hope, at least with these 20-minute parts. But I do like to kind of keep them that length, just so people can kind of, watch them in a short amount of time and not have to skip through like a hour-long video in case you have to like leave halfway through. That is the worst thing ever. I watch a lot of those like hour plus long video game retrospectives, which I've kind of talked about before, and I love them. I like having kind of background noise when I'm doing other stuff, and I think they're great. The only downside is once you kind of lose your place in them, because I tend to watch them a lot when I'm like falling asleep, because I like background noise when I'm sleeping, because I'm weird like that. But if I'm really into a video and I end up falling asleep, it's that classic thing where like you lose your place in a movie and you have to skip through the whole thing to find it again. It is actually the worst, and I don't want you guys to have to really suffer through that. So that's kind of why I keep these parts kind of shorter. Sometimes they go a little bit longer. Just depends on whether we're wrapping something up or not. But generally, I think 20 minutes is kind of a decent goal. And just as a quick reminder, I say it a lot, and I'm sure some people get annoyed of it, but we are kind of keeping our paint thin. So with every kind of few minutes or so, I do like to kind of clean my brush off, get some more water on it, and get right back to applying it, just to keep things nice and thin, and also to kind of avoid any paint getting dried up on my bristles, because that's a very quick way to ruin brushes. Trust me, if anyone would know, it's me. I ruin many brushes by accident. And unfortunately, I don't have my paint handle today, again, for the sake of making this a little bit easier to view for you guys. But it does mean that I'm doing all sorts of weird angles trying to get a good grip on this thing. But yeah, I've gone through quite a few brushes in my time. I think I'm um, kind of expert on how to avoid ruining them because I've gone through literally dozens. It's rough. I need to learn to take better care of my brushes, but at the same time, I get ones that are cheap enough. It really doesn't matter. So old habits will die hard, unfortunately. And once we kind of wrap things up with this first kind of base coat, I think I mentioned it last time. The standard box art for, or like the classic like way, quote unquote, that these guys are painted, according to the box art, is with a lot of red highlights on like the little shoulder emblems and the antennas and stuff. I kind of like the red, but honestly, I have enough models that I paint red like on my shelves already, so I want something a little bit different. So we're gonna be doing like a light blue, as I'm sure you can see in the background there. It is a layer paint. You know how much I love those. It's great trying to thin that down in comparison to normal paint. But we're gonna try it out. It might be a little bit too light. We might have to kind of switch paints around, but we will definitely give it a go. I think it's Teclis blue is that specific color, and I've used it very sparingly in the past before, so we'll see how it looks. But before we do that, we do want to get this white all finished up, at least to the best of our ability. And then we will keep the kind of classic color scheme when it comes to like the underside of these models, like the legs and such. Normally they're done black. I'm kind of inclined to think that that does look nice, so we will continue on with that. But otherwise, that's kind of our game plan. There's really not too much color that we're going to be doing besides that. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of little details that we'll take care of, but that's going to be pretty much like the main color scheme. So if you're trying to figure out what colors you need for this and you want to follow along with me, there you go. Just Gracier, Corax White, and Teclis Blue. That's pretty much our main, and Abaddon Black. Sorry. Of course, I feel like we always do Abaddon Black. It's kind of a staple. And we will be doing a little bit of Lead Belcher as well. Not too much, but that's more going to be for this little drone dude. So that's something that we will kind of keep an eye out for. And with that being said, I will do another quick layer on top of this real quick because I can kind of see where that undercoat is peeking through. And we'll actually start out with this drone. That's kind of what we're going to test our color scheme on because it's the smallest piece here. And if I ruin the drone, I'm really not too worried about it. In the grand scheme of things, I'd rather ruin a much smaller model than one of our battle suits and find out the hard way. But we will be doing the underside with a kind of silver, and then we'll do that kind of top ring around the edge there with our blue. And we'll kind of see how that looks. Might be terrible, might be cool. I don't know. These guys give me kind of a Star Wars vibe, actually. Not the battle suits themselves, but the little drone there. And I don't know if you guys remember episode 1, the pit droids that they use like during the racing scene. Gives me a huge vibe of those dudes. But we're going to be moving on to our Teclis Blue now. I am giving this a good little shake because I don't think I've actually used this in quite a few months, if at all. I'm sure I've used it at some point in the past, otherwise I wouldn't have bought it, but it's one of those things, I bought it for like a 5-minute project and then never touched again. And we are going to be doing a little bit of detail work, so I'm using a size 0 brush, and it's kind of tricky. I need some water on my brush to kind of get the bristles a little bit more flexible, but I don't want any water really mixing in with the paint itself because it's so thin already. It's the layer paints are weird, man. They're super thin already. And we're just gonna start out with the kind of edge here. I'm actually gonna kind of brace myself because otherwise my hands are too shaky to do this neatly. And we're just gonna follow this along all around the edge there. Now, I mentioned last time I really don't know a lot about Tau lore. That's still kind of true. I haven't done any extra reading up on them because I am terrible as a person. But one thing I do know that I didn't mention last time is Tau are kind of comparable to the Covenant from Halo. They're like a collection of aliens rather than just like one race, which is kind of cool. But also every model that isn't the battle suits or the warrior. I don't know what you call them. Every model that doesn't have like this look is kind of lame to me. I don't like the Kroot. I think they're kind of boring. They look like jackals from Halo. But with that being said, the Kroot are kind of cool in their lore. They're cannibals, and from the little bit of lore that I know of them, which I've gotten from the Caiaphas Cain novels, They like eat their own people if they want to see if they're like chaos infected, which is weird, but it kind of makes sense. And I'm not too clear on it. I saw like a quick little YouTube short, and it basically explained it. But they kind of eat other species to evolve, kind of. But it's by accident. Like they'll eat like dogs, right? For example, as like a food source. But then it ends up getting mixed in with their DNA, and that's how they like evolved into croot hounds, which is weird. So there you go. That's all the knowledge I really have of the Tau. And Kroot are weird. They're cool though. They are cool. I don't like the look of them, but their kind of background is kind of interesting. And of course, if you're not familiar with the Covenant from Halo, they're just like a collection of alien races, and that's basically what the Tau are. But that's Halo's a topic for another day. I feel like there's actually I think Halo has a miniature game. I forget what it's called. It's called like Ground Assault or something to that effect. And I really want to get into it at some point. I only learned about it because I was doing 3D printing and there was a subreddit and someone mentioned it. And I was like, oh man, I really want to get into this. And I was going to 3D print it, and then like the main collection of files that someone had posted was like deleted the very like day before I actually went in to get them, which is fair. You know, it's a whole copyright issue. I'm not gonna be upset about it because it's like pirating. But yeah, it kind of sucked a little bit. I was really excited. I saw some pictures of the models, and I was like, man, this looks great. I would love to have a collection of them. You know, maybe do some like Imperial Guard proxies. And yeah, didn't work out. Literally got DMCA'd right before I could pick them up. So that did suck a little bit. And I've got to say, I was kind of on the fence about this blue. You never really know how it's going to look until you really apply it to a model. I feel like it's the same thing with buying like wall paint, right? It looks one way in the can, but then when it actually dries and it's on the wall, it looks totally different. Same thing, looking at it from like the outside of the pot, with Citadel at least. It looks one way, and then it dries, and it's a totally different shade. So I was a little bit worried about how this blue would turn out, but honestly, I think it looks pretty good. And I'm sure it's kind of a mix of the base coat being the right color for it. But I'm pretty happy with this. So I think once we kind of get everything all finished up, it'll all come together really nicely. And we will follow this rim all the way around, and we'll get started on our underside. I'm not sure. It should be a quick little job. I just want to be careful we're not very messy about it because I don't want to have to paint this blue again once we get it all done. Because layer paints are kind of annoying and they take multiple layers in my experience. So once I get this knocked out, I kind of don't want to have to go back to it. But with that being said, I think we're going to leave that little bit. We'll make that like silver just to give us kind of a little bit of diversity, I guess, for lack of a better word. And we'll come back for that in a minute. We'll let that dry. Maybe we'll finish that off next time, but I do want to move on to the silver while we still have a little bit of time. And once again, give this a nice good shake because I haven't used it in a minute. And this is, of course, going to be Lead Belcher. I feel like every time we do a project, we bring out the Lead Belcher. It's another one of those paints that's just so versatile. It's pretty much a universal, use it for every project kind of deal. And with the layer paint, we didn't want to mix too much water in. With your metallics, you really do. It's very thick if you're not careful about it. And I apologize, my throat's still a little bit not great, but I'm on the rebound. I am recovering from my sickness quite well, so hopefully that continues. I give it like another week or two, then I'll get sick again, don't worry. It's the unfortunate way that it goes when you work in a hospital. But oh well, we will do our best. And so far, this is going rather well. I think I'm also going to do that kind of middle bit there. We'll keep that silver as well. And then I don't even know what these are meant to be. Like, obviously, that's a gun. I don't know about this thing, whether that's like a scanner or like flashlight or something. I kind of thought it was like a little rocket pod at first, but there's nothing like jutting out of it, like a rocket or anything, or a missile or whatever you want to call that. So I think it's literally just like a flashlight. I don't know. I don't know my Tau lore well enough to tell you what that is, but we will paint it kind of as we see fit. And as we move on to this middle bit, we will once again mix some water in. I want to keep things nice and thin, otherwise we're going to get some weird texturing going, and we want to avoid that if at all possible. One thing I also want to mention is that these bases for like the flying models, I loathe them. I hate them with an absolute passion. They are so awkward. This one wasn't too bad. I forget what they're called. They're the Space Marines with the jump packs and like the heavy cannon kind of looking thing. I want to say they're called Annihilators, but I feel like that's kind of wrong. The They have these similar kind of bases, but they're like curved, and they don't just stick in. Like you have to glue them on. They suck. I've only ever done one squad of them, and I refuse to do another one because putting those bases on was the bane of my existence. You have to hold them while they dry. I tried super glue. I tried the normal plastic glue, the plastic cement stuff, and none of it was working. Like it was just such a massive pain, and I just never want to go through that again. So, yeah, there you go. I also do want to shout out something I kind of didn't realize at first until I went and looked, because I was going to buy another squad of Tau. So I picked up the Combat Patrol, which I mentioned last time if you didn't manage to catch that episode for some reason. But so I got the Combat Patrol, but the game store that I go to has like a lot of the older Combat Patrols. Like people just don't buy them, so they end up sitting on their shelves forever. And every now and then I'll go in and I end up grabbing one thinking it's like the latest. No, it was the old Combat Patrol, and I looked at the new one, and it has like a whole little vehicle thing, like a little hover tank or something. I don't know what it technically was. Again, I don't know Tau lore. But it makes me sad because I hate vehicles in 40K. I don't like painting them. There's a couple of exceptions. Like I like the Lehman Russes, and I like the I think they're called like Sentinel Scouts or whatever. I like those, right? And as we get into a weird angle here, but I don't like Rhinos, and I don't like Land Raiders or the Tau vehicles, any of that. I just think they're kind of annoying to paint, and I'd much rather have, especially in combat patrols, I'd rather have more infantry. And the new combat patrol for Tau doesn't have the what am I trying to say? It gets rid of some of the infantry, and in its place it puts the vehicle, which sucks. So yeah, I at the same time I'm glad that I managed to pick up the old one, but also knowing that I'm probably not going to be able to get another old one really puts a damper on things for me. And while we have a few minutes left, we are going to finish up this kind of blue layer, just because it is still a little bit patchy, and I feel like starting on another one of the Battlesuits will kind of be a little bit redundant because we don't really have much time left. But I do have a little bit of time to kind of wrap this up. And as we get to the end of the video, as always, I do want to do some shout outs real quick. I have a Patreon. If you guys would like to support the channel, feel free to check that out. Also, if you guys want commissions done, feel free to send me an email. The link for that is also in the description. That's kind of a newer thing I've been putting in there. I've never done commissions before, but it's something I would heavily be interested in if you guys saw fit to do that. Otherwise, don't worry about it, I guess. But I think it'd be fun. So definitely hit me up if that's something that you want. I don't have any like prices yet. I'm still trying to work that out, so I'm pretty negotiable on that. But there you go. I also would suggest you guys like and comment, subscribe. Mainly just comment. Everything else is good for analytics and all that, but comments are really all I care about because I want to get feedback from you guys. I do care about your opinions and, especially your suggestions for future videos you want to see and all sorts of things like that. It means a lot to me to kind of get your guys' responses to stuff. And with that being said, I think we're going to kind of finish things out for now. Next time we'll come back, we'll get started on doing the blue on our stealth battle suits, and I'm sure that will be tons of fun and not at all annoying at all. I say that with some sarcasm, of course. Really, I just want to thank you guys a lot for watching, and hopefully, I will see you again in the next episode.